Okay, we're nearing the end here on page 6. Into the written response where you need to show your work. Number 24, Ellie wants to build a fence around her rectangular garden. So I've drawn out a rectangle here. The garden measures 100 feet by 50. What's the perimeter of the garden in feet and in yards? So they give me the dimensions initially in feet, and they want in feet, great. But then later they want me to convert it into yards. So let's do the first bit here. The perimeter of a rectangle is 2 of these lines and 2 of these lines. So I have my width and I have the length. So I've got 2 that are 100 feet and 2 that are 50 feet. So 2 times 100 is 200, and 2 times 50 is 100. This says 100 feet. So I get 200 plus 100 is 300 feet. So 300 feet to go around this garden in feet. So 150, another 100, and another 50 gets us to 300. So now I need to change it to yards. So I'll put in my 300 feet. And I will say that there are 3 feet in a yard. 300 times a third is the same as 300 divided by 3, which is 100. My unit now is yards because feet and feet canceled. So it's 100 yards or 300 feet. B, if fencing costs $10.50 per yard, determine the cost of the fence. So I'm going to use the value in yards because that's the pricing they gave us. So $10.50 per yard and 100 yards. I've got 100 yards. And I know I want my cost, I want the answer to be just in dollars, right? So I know I'm going to have something where yards is gone and I've replaced it with dollars, which is great because that's what I've got right here. I've got 1050 on the top and per 1 yard. So 100 times 1050 is, well, we just moved the decimal 2 places, don't we? So that is 1050 or $1,050. That is the cost of the fence. For number 25, we have a storage shed. It says that it has a right square prism on the bottom, so that's all of this down here. And on the top, it has a right square pyramid, so that's all of this up here as the roof. Determine the volume of the storage shed to the nearest cubic foot. So if I want to find the volume of the storage shed, I've got the pyramid part, which has its own volume, and that's going to be all of this, right? Volume of the pyramid is 1/3 area of the base times height. That's from your formula sheet. And I've got the volume of the rectangular prism part, and this part here is just length times width times height, right? Which is the same, area of the base times height, but I'm writing it out here as length times width times height. If I add them together, I got my total. So one thing that's important to know to solve this problem is that the area at the base of this pyramid is exactly the same as the area of the base of this rectangular prism. These two are the same. So if they are the same, that's great. That means I know those numbers. In this case, they're 12 by 12. Okay. So if I add my volume of my pyramid and my volume of my prism together, I get my total. I got the formulas for both, 1/3 area of the base times height for the pyramid and length times width times height for the prism. I've labeled this one H2 and this one H1 because I have a height here and I have a height here and they're not the same number. They're both called H, so I have to keep it straight somehow. So I called them H1 and H2, and I've labeled that here as well. And I do recommend doing that when you're writing out a problem. Labeling things as clearly as you can, because as soon as you get up to have a drink of water, you're going to come back and forget which H was which. So now I've got my volume for my pyramid. I've got my volume for my prism. I've written them out as being length times width times height in both cases because it doesn't matter. I just thought that was nice. So for the pyramid, I've got 1/3 12 by 12, which is 12 by 12 by 3, which is the height. And 1/3 just comes from the formula. And for the prism, I've got 12 by 12 by 15 because 12 by 12 by 15 are my length, width, and height. So this works out to 144, and the pyramid, or the prism, sorry, works out to 2,160, both in cubic feet. I add them together, and I get 2,304 cubic feet, which was my answer for my total volume. For those of you who really like playing with algebra, like we did on the last page, if these two are the same, then this whole line, I'm just going to pick a better color to highlight it in here, just pick yellow. This whole line works out to 16 times s squared. So 16 times 12 times 12, which is also 2304, which may feel like a nicer way to do it if you really like playing with algebra that way, which I'm assuming you do, because who doesn't? Everybody likes algebra. Okay, this was a shorter page, and we'll move on to the last one.